Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. This time reviewing episode 122. The final fight between Universe 7 and Universe 11 begins. As Goku takes on Jiren, he's interrupted by Vegeta, who tries to fight Jiren on his own. While he manages to get a few hits in, once Jiren starts fighting seriously, he begins to dominate the fight. As Jiren mocks Vegeta's arrogance, Vegeta powers up a massive final flash, but Jiren is still able to withstand it and defeat him. So, what did I like about this episode? Well, first of all, the obvious Takahashi. It was another Takahashi episode. If you guys were looking at this episode and you're not familiar with the super animation stuff and you're like, at some point the character designs looked like really cool or really different or looked kind of sort of nostalgic, the answer to that is because Yuya Takahashi, he was one of the animation supervisors this episode, he was in 114, he came back this episode and the art looked like even better and he got to draw even more characters and basically just everybody looked cool and it made the episode look cool and just made everything cooler. Also, I liked the sort of character moments we kind of got with Jiren in this episode. We kind of got two. One was that sort of conversation between Goku and Jiren, and with Goku sort of asking what Jiren really wanted, and Jiren responding that he kind of seeks something that's beyond strength. And it was sort of interesting because it does sort of imply, before people were kind of saying that, maybe Jiren has no personality or they didn't give him a personality, but it clearly shows, that there is something behind Jiren that they just haven't told us yet. The fact that he's been so stoic at this point wasn't because he has no personality, it's just because they've chosen not to tell us much about him until now. And the other moment with Jiren was actually kind of a twofold thing. It was the sort of character moment between Jiren and Vegeta, where Jiren is basically kind of mocking and sort of looking down at Vegeta for his sort of arrogance and cocky attitude, and Vegeta sort of responds by basically saying that, yeah, I'm very arrogant and that's kind of how I fight, but that's basically that's kind of the way I roll. I'm a Saiyan, I like being prideful, that's sort of my thing, that's my own personal thing. And then Vegeta sort of uses that kind of resolve, sort of belief in himself to almost kind of get a power-up and make this giant final flash to try and defeat Jiren. And even though it didn't actually beat Jiren, it was obviously kind of a big moment for him, for Vegeta. So in the end, I liked this moment for two reasons. One, because it kind of gave Jiren a bit more personality. It showed that Jiren sort of didn't really like the way Vegeta fights, and it sort of probably related to, Jiren's personal morals. And second of all, it kind of gave Vegeta a bit more personality. Or at the very least, it actually explored his character in a way. It felt like it did kind of mean something to him. There's an actual character interaction that makes sense and that led to a big moment in the episode, and yeah, I thought it was good. As for what I didn't like about this episode, well, first of all, honestly, I enjoyed pretty much all of the Vegeta-Jiren fight. I feel like the beginning of it personally could have gone without those constant sort of Ultra Instinct hints. The part where Vegeta starts fighting Jiren and then he reads Jiren's movement and manages to get some hits on him. It's just suddenly the spectators are suddenly just oh, wait, was that Ultra Instinct? Is Vegeta trying to get Ultra Instinct? Look, the way he moved was kind of like Ultra Instinct. Maybe he's fighting Jiren so he can get Ultra Instinct. And even though by the end of the episode we basically had Vegeta proclaiming that he probably wasn't really going to try and get Ultra Instinct because that's not really his style, I feel like the way that they were sort of talking about it at the beginning of the episode was honestly almost a little bit detrimental to Vegeta's character. Why couldn't they have just had the first part of the fight be Vegeta reads Jiren's movements because he's good at fighting or something? Why do they have to connect it to the idea of but will Vegeta actually be able to catch up to Goku and get Goku's form, as opposed to just Vegeta fighting and Vegeta getting an accomplishment on his own? It almost feels a little bit too on the nose. The characters have suddenly become self-aware and realize one of the reasons as to why people are following Vegeta around is because that they know he has the capability to catch up to Goku and get the same forms as Goku. And so they kind of just almost just sort of talking about Vegeta in reference to that and not talking about Vegeta in reference to Vegeta as his own character, getting his own character development and fighting for his own particular reasons. Also, I mean, I'll be honest, it's a little bit lame to see Jiren actually kind of holding back in his fight. Like, in this episode, Vegeta actually states that he had been holding back at the start of this battle, and that kind of probably explains as to how Goku and Vegeta are able to actually trade a few blows with Jiren without being immediately defeated. It's just a little bit disappointing, because one of the most interesting things about Jiren, and especially during the special, was that, like, the moment he started fighting, he would basically immediately dominate the opposition because he was just so much more powerful than everyone else. So seeing Jiren actually kind of, like, suppress himself to the point that, like, there are a whole bunch of points where it's just like the characters are sort of like warm-up fighting and nothing's really happening, and Jiren sort of isn't taking it as seriously as he should. It kind of makes Jiren feel a little bit less unique and makes him feel more like every antagonist ever, and not this like really interesting kind of like specific wall that is really difficult for Goku and Ko to overcome. I feel like this might be the start of a trend as to how they actually use Jiren in the fights for the next few episodes, and I hope it's not. So as for next episode, now that Vegeta's attempt to fight Jiren on his own has ended in failure, it's now going to be Goku's turn to fight Jiren, and then also maybe Goku and Vegeta's turn to fight Jiren together and see if that will actually make any difference. And one of the most interesting things about this episode is just judging by some of the hints and some of the things that they're saying, it seems like Vegeta is actually going to get a power up this episode. I'll be honest, out of everything that could happen in this arc, Vegeta getting a power up was probably one of the last things that I was expecting. Mainly because this arc spent a long time kind of hyping up the fact that Goku reached a new level of power, and I thought that maybe also giving Vegeta a new level of power would kind of take away from the effect of seeing Goku get a new form for the first time. I'll be honest, I'm actually kind of conflicted here. Because on the one hand, I mean, seeing characters get new forms can honestly be really big deals and can be really fun, but on the other hand, I mean, I'm not gonna beat around the bush here, I'm honestly not that interested to see Vegeta get a new form and to see Vegeta potentially catch up. It's just not really a part of the story that I was ever really that interested in, and in fact in some ways I find it could also potentially harm the story, and that should probably be the last controversial thing I say in this review, otherwise I will probably get into a flame war. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 122. I mean, on the one hand, on a surface level, it was kind of a very paint-by-the-numbers episode. Vegeta goes and fights Jiren, Vegeta loses to Jiren. Something that we probably could have extrapolated for ourselves and probably didn't necessarily need to be worth showing. But on the other hand, I feel like they did enough unique with this concept to actually make it quite enjoyable to watch. I mean, the art and the animation were pretty on point the entire time, and also they even attempted to give some kinds of more character moments to Goku, Vegeta, and Jiren. I'm not the biggest Vegeta fan, so the events of this episode didn't necessarily blow me away, but at the very least I feel like they did enough unique with it to make me actually engage with it. I'm honestly very interested to see how they're going to sort of make this final battle work over the next few episodes. Because, like, it's not even just, like, one fight. In fact, it's sort of like one big fight, but it's sort of split into three different perspectives and three different sort of, smaller fights happening at once. I do wonder how they're going to handle it. Like, is one fight going to be more important than the others? Are the three fights actually going to cross over each other and sort of relate to each other? Are these fights also going to have their own separate conclusions? I do really wonder how they're going to do it, because the few summaries we have don't exactly explain how that's going to operate. I think this episode did enough with the three fights and the way they balanced the three fights for me to be kind of interested to see what they're going to do. But yeah, we're in the final battle time. The final battle sounds like it's going to be really fun, and I am really interested to see what's going to happen next. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye guys!